The World Health Organization is warning that countries around the world need to take immediate action to stop what they call an impending, quote, tidal wave of cancer that we're about to get. Oh boy. I never wanted to see those words even vaguely close in the same sentence or paragraph. Tidal wave of cancer. So they just released a study that says the cancer rate is going to increase by about 70% over the next 2 decades and could reach 24 million per year by the year 2035. Wow, man, a 70% increase. That's a huge increase. So we're already seeing evidence of the spike because the cancer mortality rate rose by 8% just from 2008 to 2012. But of course, the important question is, why did it happen? That's the really important issue here. And they say, quote, population growth and aging, but they're particularly concerned about preventable cancers that stem from lifestyle choices and environmental factors, like the diseases that are linked to alcohol, tobacco, air pollution, obesity, and radiation. And then in the very next sentence, they say, quote, one of the report's authors, Dr. Bernard Stewart, noted that the evidence about cancer brings up important questions about the role of government regulation. So the point that they make is that we don't need to resign ourselves to this fate. Yes, the model that we used to figure out the rate that cancer is going to increase over the next X amount of years by the year 2035, the model can change if we change our human action. We can prevent that. It's not set in stone. It's not set in concrete that there's going to be a 70% increase in cancer. That's just the projections if we keep going on the path that we're on. But if we actually do the right government policy and regulation, we can lower that number. We can actually succeed at that, but we need to actually make it a focus, which of course we're not doing. And even more evidence of this is that in the developing countries where regulations are almost non-existent, I mean, here in the U.S. we bitch about regulations, but we have more than third world countries, they're getting slammed even harder. Quote, less developed countries are projected to see a 44% increase in cancer rates over the next decade compared to just a 20% increase in wealthier nations. So the answer is simple, man. Let's get smart here. I mean, it sounds comically simple, but it is what it is. I mean, if we actually were to sit down and draft up a whole bunch of regulations to limit the amount of pollution from, carbon sources that we throw out there, different fossil fuel, tar sands, oil, natural gas, all this garbage, limit the amount of, ridiculous storing of chemicals that we're doing in North Carolina, all the ash from the coal processing just went into the water and poisoned it, and we're waiting for people in North Carolina to get sick. What happened with that crazy licorice-smelling chemical in West Virginia that destroyed 300,000 people who didn't have drinking water. If we just get together and come up with regulations to handle all this shit and wean our way off and go towards solar energy and wind energy and thorium and geothermal and all these things that we know are the future, we can actually limit this. We can limit this. I mean, look at China. They literally break the meter when they try to measure in certain parts of Shanghai how bad the pollution is. All right, that has real world effects. The fucking average age there, believe you me, you heard it here first. The average age there is going to drop to like people in their 40s are going to start croaking. Okay, because it's like smoking a cigarette 24/7, breathing that shit in, all the carcinogens. Okay, and don't take my word for it. I'm basing this on the studies. I'm basing this on the evidence. There was the report that came out the other day, or the other month, I should say, that talked about how pollution is officially a carcinogen, and millions of people die from it every year. All right, well, if we get our act together, if we actually efficiently regulate the marketplace and we make sure that we're drinking clean water, breathing in clean air, we can prevent this stuff from happening. We don't need to resign ourselves to it. But that's the problem, is that nobody's even having the conversation, right? Like, you listening to this show, sure, we have the conversation, but we're a small outlet. We can't affect that many people. We try to make a difference, but it's hard, right? But in actual policy circles, you hear Democrats and Republicans talking about this 70% increase in cancer rates and how we could reduce it. Have you heard that conversation? Have you heard about trying to stop the cataclysmic effects of global warming? You haven't, right? Nobody has. That's the point. because they're all corrupt, they're all bought and paid for, they're all focused on their own personal lives and their careers, and they figure, well, fuck it, I'm going to die in 40 years anyway, I'll get mine while I'm at it. Well, okay, but if you're that kind of a callous bastard, you're certainly not in the same group that I like to consider myself in. We like to actually give a shit about the next generation, and we'd like to not see an increase in something like the cancer rate.